Hi, everybody. It's Ed. I see we have 12 o'clock, so let's get started and we'll get going here. So a couple quick things for those of you coming on. We do record these videos. We put them on our YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/@Crowe Medicare. You can see it there at the bottom of the slide. If you can go on there, you can watch all the videos we've done. You'll see tons of them on there. Please subscribe to the channel. I have a dubious distinction of I have a very high percentage of views and very low percentage of subscribers. I might get an award, so maybe I shouldn't be telling you to subscribe. Anyway, if you have questions as we go through here today, please just send them into the webinar. I will answer them at the end for you. I usually will not look at them along the way, but I will answer them at the end. So send them in whenever you feel like, and I will read them and answer them at the end for you. Okay, so today we're going to talk about strategies for the 2025 AEP. There are a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles this year. We're going to kind of point those out, talk about them, and then I'm going to try to just in general talk to you about the steps you should take to try to manage this thing, because there's like I said, some challenges here. So we'll talk about the factors impacting the AEP and what to expect. We're already starting to see that now. Efficient ways to update and gather information, quoting and enrolling. Going to big emphasis on Connector and Sunfire, or at the very least the carrier portals, but it's Connector and Sunfire. Best way to retain current members. Big dual changes. I did a webinar on that last week. That's going to impact a lot of people who write duals and people who want to change duals. Ability to write new business. It's kind of an irony here that you're going to be so busy with your existing book, but there'll be a lot of opportunity to write new business because there'll be a lot of people shopping this year. And then why your book of business might be worth more, probably will be worth more next year than it is at this time of year as we speak right now. End on a positive note. That's what I'm always told. Gotta be negative the whole time, but just end positively, and that's half the battle. Okay, so what's created these challenges for AEP? Well, it's the Inflation Reduction Act, the $2,000 drug cap, and the impact of it. The $2,000 cap will benefit 9% of Medicare eligible people. Obviously, for everybody else, it is creating, for clients, for Medicare beneficiaries, it's creating big challenges and negative consequences. And I've read articles recently saying lawmakers were surprised by these things. I don't know how that's possible, but nonetheless. So what you're going to see is a huge increase in Part D premiums. As a result of this, you're already starting to see that. You're seeing companies will, in many cases, be doubling their premiums. You're going to see some carriers, I won't mention by name, but I just heard today, they are not going to pay commissions on PDPs, but most are. But there's one specifically with a very low cost drug plan that is not going to be paying, and I don't, in case I read it, unless I saw it wrong, I don't think they're going to be paying on existing either. You're seeing reductions in MAPD benefits and extra benefits, but you're also in dual extra benefits as well. But you're also on top of that, you're seeing carriers are going to be reducing the areas that they're offering plans in, eliminating important counties, for example, with plans that have been very popular. You're going to see that, and part of the challenge this year will be identifying where that is and coming up with a strategy to, as efficiently as possible, move people, because some of these will be moved over to a new plan, and some of them they're just hard cancellations in certain counties, and they won't. In some states like upstate New York, you have certain carriers that are just getting rid of plans, canceling them. All right, you got the change in the dual election, which is important. So for duals, if you didn't see my webinar before, the quarterly SEP for people with drug help duals, that is gone. That is gone in 2025. 3 new monthly elections have been added. And just to summarize, because if you want the details, just watch the webinar on our YouTube channel from last week. But just really quick, the 3 new ones are, you can take somebody who's getting any level of help and you can change them from an Advantage back to original Medicare and a drug plan. Every month there'll be an election for any level of help to change their drug plan from one to another, but there will be no quarterly. And the third election is a monthly election for full duals only. And that is for a full dual to change from one Advantage to another, except for the only Advantage plans they can change to is one that meets the definition of being a FI to HIDE or an AIP dual plan. And I don't I'm not aware of any, for example, in the state of Connecticut that will meet that definition. In other words, there will be some states where full duals, you will not have an election to change them during SEP. Okay, all of these changes are going to lead to a much greater interest in shopping plans. This year more so than probably any year we've ever had. You're going to have people who usually you don't hear from who just say, leave me alone. Well, they're going to, if they're paying attention, they're going to see what's happening to their benefits, to their premium on their Part D, and they're going to want to take a look. So it's going to be more work to renew your existing book. People with PDP plans are going to want to shop and compare, especially when they get a huge rate increase. You're going to have huge changes in the MAPD market, as I referenced before. So you're going to have people shopping this year more so than any year ever, and it's going to be busy. So you really, what you need to do on that to get efficient with it is determine, first of all, it's easy to look at this thing and say, oh, it's going to be a lot of work, but you got to take it step by step. So you got to determine the options in any given market that you have clients in. So what's changing and what looks good? Identify the best plans in a given area. So if, in a world where all the plans look bad, you got to find the one that looks, the least bad. So that's going to be important, is really paying attention this year. Usually I would say to you, look at the first looks. But the first looks that go on the Pinnacle website, pfsinsurance.com, the first looks, a lot of them from the carriers don't have any benefits in them. So it makes them a lot less useful. Now I know Aetna's going to go up there soon. United's going to go up there soon. They have benefits in theirs, so that'll help. But you got to get the information one way or the other. Some of the first looks will help, some will not. This will be a big year for contacting the broker managers for the carriers and getting an understanding of what their benefits are going to look like. And it's a really good year to attend benefit rollout meetings. Now, you know me, I can be a little negative, and some years I'm not big into benefit rollout meetings, but if there's ever a year to go to them, this is the year, because there you will see the benefits. As far as using Connecture, Sunfire, the carrier platforms, keep in mind, they are not going to have the new plans for 2025 loaded on there until October 1st. We always say October 1st because that's when they can have them on there. But there's always some screw up, and nothing's showing up until the 2nd or the 3rd. But once we hit October 2nd or 3rd, then it'll probably work like it was supposed to on the 1st. You'll be able to go in there and see the plans. But get ahead of this thing, go to the benefit meetings, and get an understanding of what you're looking at for your existing clients in a given market. And also, you need to pay close attention to dual benefit plan reductions because the extra benefits on dual plans, especially the dental and various others, I think you're going to see a big reduction in the multiple benefits. Dental, I think you'll see OTC. That's what I was trying to think of. You'll see a big reduction in that. So it's going to be important if you have a dual book to look at those dual plans. Having said this, since things are going to change, people are going to want to shop. You know how this works. If you don't reach out to them, there's a good chance somebody will, or they'll reach out to somebody else. So you got to come up with a strategy and then contact your clients. If you are an agent who usually every year does not contact your existing clients, it's going to hurt way more this year than most. You're going to suffer a lot more attrition than you're used to this year. So if you haven't in the years past contacted clients, I strongly suggest you do it this year. Because again, you're not going to see a 5 or 10% reduction in an existing book. I think it'll be a lot bigger this year. Remember, you can start calling people and running appointments as early as October 1st. You just can't submit apps to the 15th, but don't waste that time frame. October 1st through October 14th is a great time frame to start contacting people, meeting with them, setting the stage for what you're going to do with them. How do you contact them? Well, obviously the easy options are, you could snail mail it. I didn't even put it on my list here. I know some people still do that, but usually it's email, text, and phone. Email, I'll say this a couple times, email is the least efficient by far because in today's day and age with firewalls and filters and spam filters on emails, a lot of those emails just don't get there. Sometimes it goes to the person's social inbox or to some other categorized inbox in their email and they don't even know they got it. So email is the least efficient, text is much more efficient, and then phone is the best still. So Just shooting an email out, I'm going to say it just really doesn't get the job done. It's not good enough. You should be texting, should be calling them. Ideally, you'd be doing all three. But if nothing else, if you can't do anything else, give them a phone call is the most productive. A lot of people don't use the phone anymore, and it works still. So phone call is the best. So what if you say to yourself, well, that sounds great, Ed, but my book's too big to call every existing client? Well, hire somebody. It's just AEP. You can give them a script. Once you determine what plans look good and don't look good, give them a script so they can call people, touch base with them, and feel them out to see if they want to shop their plan or not. It doesn't have to be a licensed person. They can gather drug information. They can get updated doctor information from them. They can help you set the stage for running their plans and seeing what works for them. I mean, if you got an adult kid that lives at home, they're a really good candidate, and you're already paying them by giving them a roof over their head. So get them on the phones. You need somebody if it's a good time temporarily to hire help or to bring somebody in to help you to make those AEP calls. Give them a simple script, keep it easy, and that way you can determine who wants to shop, get the updated information, and retain your book. I'll say tracking. I don't care how you track it, but when you're making all these calls, you got to track this. I mean, you might call somebody and they don't answer. You might send an email, never hear from them. You got to track this, whether it's through a CRM, a spreadsheet, it doesn't matter, but track it one way or the other. Otherwise, you're going to lose track of who you've contacted, who you haven't. And I do see there's questions coming in, and I'm definitely going to answer those at the end for you. So for quoting and enrolling, I mean, Connector and Sunfire, if you're working with multiple carriers, there's just so many advantages to using either of those systems. And I still even today, we have a lot of people that don't use it. You should. You can save their doctor's list, their drug lists. If you're working with multiple carriers, you can quote, you can enroll multiple carriers through Connector or Sunfire. It just makes all the sense to do it. Now, if you want to use the carrier portals, that's fine, especially if you're only working with a couple carriers. But if you're working with a lot of carriers, you really should just kind of bite the bullet and get used to using Connector or Sunfire to quote and enroll. I mean, Connector and Sunfire, you can do email, text, and voice enrollment. It will record. You can do the scope through there. You can save all their information. It just makes a lot of sense. So if you don't know how to use Connector or Sunfire, learn it, run dummy cases through it. We get a lot of people that call asking us about it. But really the key is if they haven't tried to get set up on it and do some sample dummy cases on it, we can answer their questions, but they don't have a lot of context. So it's better if you try it, use it, and then call with your questions. And I talked over my slide here, obviously, but you know, the ability to quote, save information, make plan changes, because if you're going to see everybody and you have a lot of clients, it's just not going to be very feasible this year, because I think the number of people that will want to shop, even the ones who don't, you got to reach out to. So making a plan change over Connector or Sunfire makes a lot of sense. And remember, on each system you have a PURL. If you don't know what a PURL is, that is a personalized personal URL. It's a website that is consumer facing. You can send it out to clients, prospects. They can enroll themselves through it, and it's coded to you. They can do all the same things you can do on Connector and Sunfire, but it's consumer facing and compliant, and they can go on there themselves. The PURL isn't used a lot. I think a lot of times people don't realize that there is one, but everybody has one if you have ever used Connector or Sunfire. Connector is an interesting option this year. I've done webinars in the past on Retire Flow. Retire Flow is basically a survey system that you can send out to clients, and it will ask them a series of questions. It'll get their medications, their doctors. It'll ask if they're happy with their plan. It's made to be efficient. It was designed by an agency that has about 20,000 clients, and they use it to gather and update information from those clients. Well, Retire Flow is being integrated with Connector this year. So you can use Retire Flow, the Connector version of it. You can use it. Any information that's gathered will automatically be fed into Connector and saved. It can help you with efficiency a great deal this year. The only negative about it is you have to opt into Retire Flow through Connector. You can't use the discounted Retire Flow we have. You can only use the Connector version. and it's a little more expensive than the one we have. The advantage of Sunfire versus Connector. So Connector has retire flow, and that is a very useful system. Sunfire's advantage is they can record on an inbound call. Connector cannot. Why is that important? Because of the 48-hour scope. So if it's an inbound call, you don't need a 48-hour scope. You can get a same time scope. So it's nice if your client calls you and they call you, you record on Sunfire, it's inbound, you can do the scope right then. You don't have to get it, wait 48 hours, and then talk to them 48 hours later. So Sunfire will record inbound, Connector will not. Big difference between the two. One way I've seen agents be very efficient with AEP is having existing member meetings. The strategy's been used by years. I won't mention, there's some people who have used it to a high volume and high degree. I won't mention them, but you know, we've seen it work for years. You have member-based meetings. So you sort through and find what members are on what plans, and then usually it works best to have meetings specific to that plan. So all your people on United, you have meetings for them, big groups at once. So you can kill a lot of birds with one stone. Aetna, one meeting, you know, whomever, care partners, whomever it is, you have meetings, have those people come in and you can talk to them about the plan changes, everybody's on the same plan, and then you can talk to them about alternatives too and try to retain them. You can invite them to come to your meetings, and you can give a prize if they bring a friend. Especially this year, it is a great way to get new people in-house that you don't have as existing clients. This strategy will work better this year than it's ever worked. Trust me on that. Especially the invite a friend, get a prize thing will bring a lot of new people in the door for these existing meetings that you can obtain as a new client. You can also see if the carriers will help you with the cost. Traditionally, they have done that. This year is kind of an anomaly and bizarre because of the drug cap and expenses, the big cost shift to the carriers. But in the past, they've been willing to pay for those retention meetings. It's a very good way to renew a lot of people at once and also get new clients. Okay, know the dual benefit reductions. We talked about this. Look at the dual plans, see what plans are getting hit the hardest, and then find out which plans, depending on the state you're in, qualify as a Hide, Fight, or AEP plan. It's different by state, so it's hard. I can tell you in Connecticut, I don't think there's any. So that makes it easy. So in Connecticut, that full dual monthly election will be useless to us. So if you have a full dual in Connecticut, you're probably going to have to use the AEP or the OEP or some other special election if you want to change advantage plans for them. There are certain states that will have a number of plans that do qualify. I know New York has a couple, for example. California has quite a few. Florida. There are states that do have plans that qualify, and for those states, you'll be able to move an existing full dual into one of those new plans, a dual plan, as long as it meets the qualification. So new business, this is the kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here. Some people are going to be very busy this year renewing their existing book, and I know that's time consuming, but remember, you're going to have a lot of people shopping this year. So people are organized and efficient with their existing book. Maybe they have member meetings. You're going to have a lot of people shopping. You're going to have a lot of opportunity to get new clients and grow your book. You really will. This is a good year if you're not familiar with the companies that still allow AORs. There's less and less that do, but there still are some. Understand their process. Some of the carriers change their AOR process every year. Talk to your agent manager for the specific companies that you would be most interested in. See if they still have an AOR process and what is it this year, because they seem to change them every year. United, for example, does not do AORs. I can help you with that one, but there's a lot of carriers that do. Okay, stuff I want to mention. You may have a lot of people that want to move or are interested in looking at moving to an MAPD who traditionally were on a med sup and a drug plan. Why? Because their drug plan premiums are going up so high. So got a situation where maybe people barely can afford their supplement and their drug plan. Suddenly their drug plan premium doubles and they say, hey, I give up. I need to look in an advantage plan. That's fine. You can write advantage plans that way. Show it to them. They want to move into one, wonderful. But remember, if you write somebody's in a supplement, you write them an advantage plan. Writing them an advantage plan will not automatically cancel that supplement. And I learned the hard way on this. You need to tell them, of course, hey, look, you got to cancel your supplement once we put you in this Advantage plan. It will not automatically term, and get verification you told them. I have the same pitch I always used, but I had a lot of people who they'd get on the phone and say, well, I never canceled my sup. I've had an Advantage and a sup for the last 6 months. The supplement carrier won't give them all their money back. They say, you never told me. I know I did, but get verification. So if you tell them, hey, we're going to put you in the Advantage plan, you got to cancel your sup, send them an email. Have proof that you told them, because that will come back on you. People will get mad because they forgot, and they'll try to blame it on you. Plan terminations. If you have members in a plan that is being terminated in a specific county, you got to find out if it's going to be mapped. Mapping means this plan's being canceled, and we're going to automatically in January move these people from this plan to one of our other plans. Some carriers are not mapping people over. They're just canceling plans, and you got to move them. Some plans are mapping over to a specific plan, but get an understanding of that so you know what you're dealing with when it comes, when you're in AEP. Okay, the 2K drug cap only applies to medications in the formulary. Remember that. Yeah, you've got a $2,000 cap, but people ask me, do I have to check formularies? Yes. $2,000 cap does not apply to non-formulary drugs. The tiers of the medications in the standalone PDPs and the Medicare Advantage plans will be changing a great deal. You're going to see a lot of jockeying around of the tiering of drugs this year because of the cap. So it's really important that you review drug lists this year, because yeah, they got a $2,000 cap, but so maybe you're going to see a lot of drugs that were a tier 2 being moved to 3 or 4. So you got to be aware of that. They're going to want to be aware of it. It's really interesting, as I said earlier, lawmakers, when they made the cap, they didn't anticipate that carriers would be increasing premiums so substantially and reducing Advantage benefits so substantially to compensate for it. A really interesting wrinkle is they now just, I guess it's a law they passed, or it's an initiative they're doing, where they're going to take billions of dollars and give the carriers $15 per member per contract, or member, you could say it either way, per contract per month, to lower the impact of this. But the plan's already filed. The carriers filed them long ago. I'm not really sure how that is going to help anything, because last time I checked, I don't think the carriers can go now and lower, say, hey, we're going to increase this drug plan to $50, but now we're only going to do 30. I think it's too late for that. So I think they're just giving the carriers billions of dollars, basically, for something that I don't really think is going to have an impact, can have an impact at this point. Maybe I'm wrong about that part. More stuff. Remember the OEP, okay? So I get these questions a lot too. OEP, you can switch from one Advantage to another. That's January 1st to March 31st. You can switch from one Advantage to another, or you can go from Advantage back to original Medicare and a drug plan. That's it. You can't do anything else. So that's what you can do during the OEP. Use this time frame to make additional plan changes, changing a dual person, for example. They're in a dual plan that looks terrible. Use the OEP to switch them if you didn't have time during AEP, because you might not have the ability to switch them during SEP. And remember, it sounds simple, but OEP doesn't help us when it's a plan that's being discontinued and it's not being mapped over. So the OEP isn't going to do any good for us in that situation. All right, why did I say book of business values will go up? Well, it was very clear this year, CMS, when they came out with the final rule, and the judge agreed that they didn't explain it well. Nobody really understood the rule. And it was the opinion of the judge that it was done intentionally, so nobody could challenge it. So they made some mistakes. The judge put a stay on the rule, so it wasn't implemented, but they will not make that mistake next year. I promise you that. They'll come right back with a new final rule. They'll do it right next year. They'll do it from a standpoint where a judge doesn't put a stay on it. It'll go through. So I strongly feel that $100 increase will be implemented in 2026, and it will be implemented, in my opinion, on new and existing. I think that's a given that it will. So all these members you retain, you're going to get an extra $100 per member next year. So that's why your book of business value is going to go up. So it's worth retaining these people and growing that book. The agents, in my opinion, that they're most organized and efficient. They embracing technology and can manage the book, they're going to benefit. They're going to get a lot of new clients, and then they're going to get a revenue increase next year when that new final rule comes out and that $100 is finally added. I was always taught to end on a positive note, and that's about the only positive thing I could come up with. So there we go. And we are done. I'm going to check for questions. Remember, the recording will be put on YouTube, youtube.com/Crowe Medicare, and let's see what we have for questions. Ed, glad you were so positive for this AEP. I wish I could stay the same. Well, okay, thank you. I try to be positive. This will be a challenging AEP, though. Will there be an extension? Let me see. Let me open this question up. Will there be an extension SEP past 12/7 for people losing their MAPD plans to 12/31? Well, yes. A plan discontinuance has a special election that gives you extra time. The problem is you have that, but you know, if it hits 1/1 and they're in a plan that's discontinued, well, if you're working on them in February, they're going to have a month where they're not going to have a plan. So yes, you'll have an SEP to work with them, but you know, time is of the essence with that. If a carrier is terminating a plan, how early can we call clients to let them know prior to them receiving correspondence from the carrier? Is it earlier than October 1? No, you got to wait till October 1st. I know AOR is agent of record. What is the reason for checking about it with carriers? Because everybody's AOR process is different. And I know personally, and also with a lot of people I've talked to over the years, suddenly you'll get into a situation with a carrier who you know has an AOR process, but you don't know what it is. So you're talking to a client or with a client, you want to AOR them, but you don't know the process. So learn the applicable carrier's AOR processes ahead of time, so when the time comes, you're ready to pull the trigger on it. How do you think we'll find out what the 2025 commissions are? They're out there. Just Google Medicare Advantage commissions 2025. We've done blogs on them. We've done a webinar. I've done a webinar on that. That's on the YouTube channel. They're out there, so we know them. There was a slight increase, you know, fair market value increase on the commissions in every state, and a fair market value increase on the renewals as well. It was modest, put it that way, because it got confusing because initially there was going to be the extra $100, then a stay got put on the legislation, so it didn't happen. So now it's just the regular fair market value increase. So I don't see any other questions. It looks like that is all we have for questions. Oh, one more. Here we go. What are we doing about non-commissionable PDPs? Send the clients to CMS. That's interesting. Yeah, it's a good question. So non-commissionable PDPs, I don't think there will be that many of them. There's one carrier I know that is going non-commissionable. I would say move them to another PDP, or if that PDP that they're in is non-commissionable, that's up to you. I mean, you just hate to send them to another client, to another agent, or you could send them to CMS, I guess, but then you never know what's going to happen with them with the supplement they're on. You're losing control in that scenario. This helps. The one carrier I know that's going non-commissionable, they're not offering in some states a PDP at all. So in some scenarios, that won't be an issue. But it is a tough position to be in. You're not going to get paid on a PDP. But you still have their supplement business theoretically, so I'm not so sure I'd want to give up control of that. Somebody, I think this is a follow-up to the commission question. They may not pay those published amounts or pay a less amount, correct, but it's a max right now. It's the max they can pay, but pretty much every carrier is at that max. I think there is one or two where if you're moving from Advantage to Advantage, I won't call them out by name, but there's one carrier that is, I think, trying to dabble in paying a little less if it's MA to MA, but pretty much all of them are paying the max. Who is the PDP carrier that's not commissionable? Send us an email or call us and I'll tell you. I just don't want to say it on a recorded webinar. But interesting timing on this. Somebody said, have we heard from WellCare? Yes, we have heard from WellCare. So those two questions may be linked to a degree. Good timing, Mary. Let's see if we have any other questions here. Okay. If a carrier terms a plan and you've been paid full commission, do they claw that back? That's a good question. I'm going to say no, but I think there might be some scenarios where you should probably check your commission statement. I don't know the exact answer on that. Technically, they're not supposed to, I think is the answer. But you might want to keep track of that, because if they termed, it was an involuntary termination and you're not supposed to be clawed back on that. But again, it's a good question, and I would definitely check commission statements to make sure that that doesn't happen. No problem. Okay, looks like that's all we have for questions. Appreciate everybody coming on today. It's going to be a challenging AEP, really is. But again, the positive note, if you've got your affairs in order here and you're doing it well, I think this will be a year where you can get a lot of new clients. You'll move people from supplement and Part D. I think a lot more people will be interested in Advantage this year, so they just won't be able to afford that Part D anymore. And you're going to get a lot of just existing Advantage people that aren't with you shopping. So stay involved, and I think you can benefit from this. All right, I hope everybody has a great day, and thanks for coming on.